Hey, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to talk about satanic witches. You heard me. Satanic witches. It's a great time. No, we're talking about a little scene movie from '88 called Spellbinder. This movie, I found out about this movie in the mid-90s. There was a video store going out of business and they were selling their movies like they happen to do. And I went because you can get, I was really into horror movies and you can get the VHS tape for like $3. So I went and I bought a bunch of movies. I bought Salem's Lot, the miniseries, obviously, at that point. The next miniseries wasn't made yet. The Tobe Hooper directed miniseries, which I love that movie. I bought Halloween 4, Halloween 5, and something else. I don't remember what that was at this point. But on the VHS tape for Halloween 4, there was a trailer for this movie called Spellbinder. They both came out the same year. That's how I found out about this movie. Then I went and I rented it. Our video store in town, which was called Broad Street Video in Tamaqua, Pennsylvania, they had one copy of it. One. And I rented it. And I've always liked it. And I still like it to this day. Is it an awesome movie? Depends what you're looking for. But for a satanic witch movie, which we don't get too many of these, I like it. I do. I like it. It's one of the better satanic witch movies. I don't know how many of them are actually out there, but this is one of the better ones. I like this one more than The Craft. Yes, I like this one more than The Craft. This one stars Timothy Daley, who's mostly known from the TV show Wings. But he was also in the movie Diner in the early 80s with Steve Guttenberg, Mickey Rourke, and some other people. And then he went on to do the Stephen King adaptation miniseries Storm of the Century. Also in this movie is Kelly Preston, who's mostly known for being John Travolta's wife, but she's been in a ton of movies and TV shows. Most notably, in the early 80s, she was in a movie with Charles Bronson called 10 Till Midnight, which was about a serial killer. Charles Bronson was a cop trying to stop this serial killer. Then she was in John Carpenter's Christine and Space Camp, if you remember that film, and in this one, and then she went on to do a bunch of others. And she plays Miranda in the movie. Timothy Daley plays Jeff. Also in this movie is Rick Rosovich, who you'll remember from, he was in The Terminator. Also is Iceman's co-pilot in Top Gun. That's probably where he's most notably from. But he's in this movie as well as Jeff's buddy, and his name's Derek. And MC Gainey's in this movie. Well-known character actor. You'd know it if you saw him. A few things he's been in. He was in Con Air. He played the prisoner's airplane or air pilot. He was the guy who flew after they stopped off in Carson City. And he was also in Breakdown with Kurt Russell. And another movie he was in, I can name it, he's in a ton of movies, but he's also in Beer Fest with the Broken Lizard guys. He played the priest in the beginning of the movie, who they were playing cards with. But anyway, this movie was also directed by Janet Greek, who I'm not familiar with anything else she really did. She did mostly TV shows after this. She wasn't, I don't think she did any more movies after this from what I could see in the IMDb. But the budget, I couldn't find out. I tried to look, couldn't find out what the budget was on this film. I know it only made $657,000. From everything I could find, it kind of got like an art house release and then kind of quickly went to VHS rentals. So this movie really wasn't seen by a lot of people upon theatrical release. And I don't know how many people have seen it to this day. If this is a movie you bring up, people are like, what the hell's that? It's not a well-known movie. You can get a Blu-ray on Amazon. I did check last night after I watched it again. And you can buy a Blu-ray, although I think it's a little high price. It's like $20. I'm like, I don't think it's worth buying it for $20. But Amazon Prime is streaming it as well. So if you have Amazon Prime and you're curious about this movie, I know it's on there. Anyway, this movie is about Timothy Daley's character. He's a lawyer. And it kind of opens up with him and his buddies playing basketball. And when they finish up, they're walking back to their cars. Two of his friends kind of peel off, go to their cars, and he's left with his buddy Rick Rozovich's character. And they're just talking. And as they're talking by their cars, they hear this yelling, and they look over, and there's this couple kind of struggling with each other, yelling back and forth. And they kind of ignore it at first, and then the guy slaps the girl, and they run over to stop it. And the guy's like, get out of here, you don't know what you're doing. You don't want this kind of trouble, friend, or something like that, he says to him. And he helps Kelly Preston's character up, and they make eye contact, and she gives him a smile. Now, Kelly, and instantly you can tell he's smitten with this woman. I mean, Kelly Preston's a beautiful woman, so he's like, wow, this chick's hot. And the guy keeps pressing. They have a little bit of interaction with the guy yet, and he cuts his friend's hand, And the guy leaves, and he offers to take her home. And Miranda lets him take her home, and then she tells him in the car how she doesn't have a home now, that he left, and she was living with him, and now she has nowhere to go. So he offers to let her stay at his house, which she does. The next day he goes to work, he comes home, she's still there, and all she's is dressed in a shirt. They end up having sex, and now he's fully in love with her. You could tell just the way they act with one another. But all of a sudden, strange things start to happen. Like, these different people start making phone calls. He gets a visit at his office by this elderly woman with white hair who calls herself Mrs. White, and she gives him a warning that if he doesn't return her, he's in for big trouble. And he kind of blows it off. But he calls her and asks her if she knows a Mrs. White, and she hangs up and she takes off. And he can't find her for like 3 days, so he goes to the cops, and he shows them a picture of her. And she has this necklace with this kind of sign on it. And the one cop recognizes it, goes, "Hold on, I want you to talk to somebody." And he talks to the one detective, and the detective gives him a warning, like, these people are dangerous, this group that she's involved with. And they've been known, there's a couple unsolved murders that are connected to them, but they can't prove it. And he kind of totally blows it off, which for the way the character's set up in the beginning, you wouldn't think he would dismiss the policeman's information that easily, but he totally blows him off. And finally, Miranda comes back to him. She's worried. They found her, and she's like all upset. So he takes her back to his house, and they all show up there. All these witches, these satanic worshipers, and all this kind of weird shit starts happening. The windows blow out, the doors blow off, all this kind of stuff, and they make it through the night. And he hides her with MC Gainey's character, he's kind of like this prepper. He has this like bunker for a house. So he drops her off there for the day, and he goes to work, and she gets taken. They kill Brock, which is MC Gainey's character's name, and they take her. And he goes to this house that she told him about, that her and her mom used to go to. And he ends up threatening these elderly people, and they tell her where she is. He also finds like a pentagram on the floor and all this kind of weird shit at this house. So he gets his buddy, and his buddy calls the cops, and they go to this beach. It's nighttime now. And she had told him previously about this ritual they're going to perform on the winter solstice. And she said she don't know what it is. It might be just an animal sacrifice. She's not sure. So he shows up there and sees her. His buddy goes off to get the cops. He sees her down on the beach. They have her tied down. And they're all circled around her, and they're just chanting. So he sneaks down there, and he gets jumped by 3 guys. And they end up kind of... They get him in a position where they take him over, and he thinks that she's the one that needs help. And she's in on it. And they end up tying him down. They take his shirt off and they tie him down. And then by the time his buddy and the cops get there, they're putting on robes. They're in on it. And she tells him, "Thank you. I knew you'd come to save me like you did before. And now because you came willfully, my life can be saved once again." They tie him down, and his buddy ends up putting his skull mask on and cutting his heart out. So it's kind of like The Wicker Man a little bit. If you've ever seen the original Wicker Man, not the one with Nicolas Cage. And at the end of the movie, they show Rick Rozovich's character with another guy. And they're talking, they're friendly. And then they see Miranda and her boyfriend from the beginning of the movie, him hitting her. And the guy that's with Rick Rozovich's character steps in and stops it. And it looks like it's going to happen all over again. So that's kind of the movie. That's Spellbinder in a nutshell. The acting's pretty good. The directing's not bad. It's not nothing special, but it's not bad. The special effects come off pretty good. There's one makeup effect that's not convincing, but overall it's handled pretty well. I would give the movie a 7 out of 10. It's a decent little horror film, and it's worth sitting through. It takes a little bit to get going, and if I critique the editing, a little bit could have been lost to speed up the pace. There's just some meandering scenes in the beginning as they get to know each other. And I know it's important, but in the whole sense of the movie, it's not necessary. So it does take a little bit to get going. But it's definitely worth checking out if you can find it. I wouldn't pay $20 for it on Amazon. It's not worth that. But if you can stream it for a couple bucks, it's worth checking out. It's not a gore fest. There's some blood. They do show the heart when they cut it out of them. It's not overly gory at all. It's more about the mood and suspense and the witchcraft of it, and the Satanists that want to perform this ritual on the summer solstice, and him getting tricked by this girl that he has fallen in love with. So, I mean, if that sounds interesting to you, I would check it out. As a horror fan, I think it's definitely worth giving it a look-see. It's definitely underseen movie. Not many people don't seem to know about it. I've brought this up to a bunch of people that are horror fans and are like, what the hell is that movie? I get it, man. This thing kind of escaped into the world. So, but if you get a chance, check it out. Spellbinder is definitely worth at least a watch to see if you like it. I think you'd enjoy it enough if you're a horror fan. But that's it for me. That's enough talking about Satanic Witches. I'll be back soon with another review. Have a nice day. See ya. Bye.